Welcome to the Maven Marketing Podcast. Today is Maven Monday. I'm your host, Brandon Welch, and I'm here with Caleb, Four Eyes Agee.
Hey, right back at you, buddy.
You know, they say the shoes make the man.
Okay.
Well, the frames make the podcaster, I think.
Okay.
I like your new frames.
I have a face for podcasts.
If you are listening via the audios, pull over and pull up and see Caleb's fancy new frames and tortoiseshell wonder.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the place where we answer your real-life marketing questions so you can eliminate waste in advertising, boom, grow your business, boom, and achieve the big dream, double boom.
I think we should just have Nate start working in
boom.
Just random sound effects into the podcast.
Yes.
Hey, I was at a marketing class with Roy Williams.
Ooh.
The Roy Williams. And somebody
He's a big deal around here.
He's a big deal. We study him a lot.
The Faja.
Somebody raised their hand and said, it was like an open question time. How do you measure the success of your campaigns? And without missing a beat, he looked at them and he said, most people use data the way a drunk uses a light post for support, not illumination. And then he just let it sit there. And of course, the guy who asked the question's like, well, what the heck does that mean? Right. And he was quoting the Scottish poet. I looked it up because I needed to. Andrew Lang, because we didn't give him credit for this. But what Roy was pointing his finger at is our weakness, our confirmation bias that happens when we try to be small business marketers / statisticians and the
/ voters
/ political experts / and it's just that we always have a bias of self-confirming, and that drunk doesn't use the light post to be illuminated. He doesn't. He's not trying to look at the street in all of its glory. What he's doing is he's just leaning on it because he needs some support.
It feels good to find data to confirm your suspicions.
Yes.
Or insecurities or whatever. Feels good to be right, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother thing. I didn't plan on talking about this, but I've been doing quite a bit of study on confirmation bias. It is wild how neurologically wired we are to do that.
Yeah.
I've been looking for studies to confirm that.
That's what I was thinking. I've been doing a lot of research to make sure I can prove that confirmation bias is real.
So I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, find me all the reasons why this idea is right. It's actually a really dangerous tool for that.
It really is. In reality, as marketers, we're all wondering, how do we know this thing is working? We're spending money in all kinds of different places, and you want to know what's working. You want to know why it's working, and you want to reward what is working, and
you're writing the checks
and take the money away from what isn't working. Right?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Right?
You wouldn't want to, throw good money after bad. But the way we always do that, and I promise you, somebody listening to this podcast, it's hanging out in their sales process somewhere.
This has happened today.
It's tucked into a form somewhere on your website, and it's just lurking there, waiting for your customers. And it is asking.
Nobody from Frank and Maven would do this.
It is asking, how did you hear about us?
How did you hear about us?
The infamous question.
Seems perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. It seems like a fair question, but we're going to talk about why that maybe
it's perfectly unreasonable
isn't the right thing to ask.
What you need to know is it's a flawed and inaccurate method. And if you wish to make sound decisions about your business, relying on introspection of human beings is just psychologically, neurologically, and emotionally impossible. And I would love for it to be true. Trust me, my job would have been a gazillion times easier over the years. Our job would be a gazillion times easier over the years because we would just ask people and they would tell us and we would do that whole elimination. Key point, we are here to eliminate waste in advertising, right? That's like that's in our freaking vision and mission statement.
Yes.
To help entrepreneurs grow without wasting money on advertising. So this is going to sound very contrary to a lot of people listening. We're going to get some hate mail on this. I know we are, and I can't wait. But we're doing it because we love you and we want you to make decisions off of good information, not bad information. We want you to grow. We want you to conquer all these things. So at a high level, we're gonna we're gonna go into the weeds enough to say to articulate some people that are way smarter than me and you, and
Yeah.
like this is
Not hard to find, but
this is not an opinion. This has been repeated over and over and over in university studies, and advertising science at large has tried to ask this and figure this out for a long time. And I'm just going to say as a preface, big brands like people who have millions of dollars at stake, they don't ask that question.
Mm-mm.
They use the other things we're going to talk about at the end of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So if you want to be like smart big brand advertisers, and we all do, right? You're not going to ask, how did you hear about us? You're going to do some other things. There are 3 big problems with it. Memory bias is the biggest. Customers struggle to accurately recall specific touch points that led them to purchase to any purchase decision. The second is that it's an oversimplification of a complex journey. The path to purchasing, especially large ticket items, and we try to think of it as decisions are made in this vacuum, and it's just like a stimulus response thing. It is just way more complex than that.
Yeah, I think Google tried to do, they called it the 0 moment of truth or something like that. They tried to emphasize that final moment,
Yes.
but that's not the only moment.
Yes.
You know, it might be the last moment, but it's not the moment.
2 of the larger like advertising platforms in the world, like Google would be one, then ComScore, who studies like consumer behavior, would be another. They themselves, like, they have the most to gain, and probably Google especially has the most to gain because almost everybody will say Google, I found you online.
Yeah.
And they came out with a book like a decade or more ago. We cite it in the Maven Marketer, and they're like, it's actually not one thing. It's never one thing. It's at the time it was like 8 or 9 things. I've heard data that's more like 12 to 15 things that contribute that they can scientifically measure. But every neuroscientist will admit we don't know. It's a very complex web of unconscious, and we're going to talk about unconscious thought today. The third is social desirability bias.
This one cracks me up because when you ask somebody to help you, they want to give you the information that they think is the most helpful for you.
Yeah.
So they change their answer to help you. They'll be like, oh, well, I heard you. Maybe they searched on Google. They'll be like, well, I've heard your TV ad.
Yeah.
And they'll try to give credit to the thing that they think maybe you're spending the most money on, or they think that you want to validate.
Or that makes them look the most sophisticated.
Yes.
Well, I definitely didn't see you on a billboard, or I definitely didn't watch you on television last night,
I
right?
don't.
So they provide answers. We all do this. We're not making big bad wolves out of everybody, but we believe are more acceptable or favorable. And it, I don't want to tell people I was scrolling on Facebook, so I may not say that, right? But the truth is, way before that, you just don't remember. Like at least 90% of this happens in unconscious thought, and everybody is like losing their minds right now because they're going, oh, but how do I figure this out? And we have clients that have spent gazillions of dollars on, that's a real number, right? Gazillions on TV, and people come in and swear that they have heard them on the radio, and they've never spent one penny on the radio, right?
Yep.
This happens all the time in our environment. So we're doing our best to break this down and just give it to you in a way you can trust and act on. And there is a better answer. We're going to get to that shortly. But hey, let's talk about the people that are smarter than us, that are going to confirm our bias. Richard Nisbet, if you want to look him up, and Timothy DeCamp Wilson did a study called Telling More Than We Can Know. Landmark study demonstrated that people often fabricate explanations for their own behaviors without realizing it. They got some funding from the University of Michigan to do this, and the big takeaway is that people confabulate. Confabulate.
It's definitely smarter than us.
It's definitely smarter. That's a $9 word right there.
19.
They confabulate reasons for their actions. Nisbet and Wilson found that when asked to explain their choices or behaviors, people often provide plausible but inaccurate explanations. They are unaware of the actual factors influencing their decisions. Instead, they construct a post hoc rationalization based on what seems to be reasonable. So, essentially, what sounds good, right?
Yeah.
What sounds right.
You don't know your own train of thought that led you to the decision that you made. And then you try to reverse engineer it when somebody asks you at the end.
Yes.
And you're going to do it inaccurately because you cannot account for all of the factors that influenced your decision.
Yes.
Up to that point.
You know those late night show guys that go up, they send somebody out on the streets and they ask people questions and they make them look really stupid because the people, at TV, on the TV audience side, we can see exactly what's going on, but these people don't know in the moment. Well, they did this same sort of thing. Here's an example from the study. They showed them 2 different pairs of nylon stockings, of all things, right? And they said, choose the one that has the best quality. Unbeknownst to the participants in the study, all of the stockings were actually identical. However, all of them provided a detailed justification for why they chose one set of stockings over the other, often mentioning texture or color, factors that weren't actually different when they showed them. And it just demonstrates everybody's instant ability to come up with a very convincing story as to why they can justify something. I know this because I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I want my ideas to be right, and I'm pretty good at storytelling. So you've been warned. So we are unaware of subtle differences in our decisions. The big things we can remember. We can remember where we were when somebody died or we got really good or really bad news. We can remember, what the weather was like and what was on the radio when really defining emotional moments happen in our lives. But when they're essentially happening in the unconscious, things that wouldn't otherwise warrant the synaptic firing that creates long-term memory, we go back and we look in that corner. We don't realize we do this, but we there's not enough detail stuck in the brain to even fabricate something, so we just do it. We just go off what we think, or maybe what we think we would do in that moment. But we were very, very inaccurate at doing that.
That's right.
So that was one study. So here's another one by Michael Gazzaniga. Okay,
you nailed it.
Yeah. I read this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Totally didn't look this up this week.
Yeah.
Actually, there are a few in here that we're referencing that I did some pretty deep research on when we wrote the Maven Marketer.
Yeah, I was mostly talking about the name. It's hard to get other people's names right.
Gazzaniga. Sounds like Italian dish. I'll have the Gazzaniga.
Yeah.
He studied the split brain to show how the left hemisphere creates explanations for actions that are actually controlled in the right hemisphere, demonstrating how we rationalize unconscious influences. We weren't planning on talking about brain lateralization today, but you should know that in the 80s, Dr. Richard Sperry discovered that we have, and demonstrated there are 2 working hemispheres of the brain, and they're responsible for 2 very different functions. Tell us about that, Dr. Sperry.
Sorry, I was thinking about shoes after you said Sperry. So,
yeah, you were.
No, okay. The right hemisphere of your brain deals a lot with creative thinking, big problem solving. The left side of your brain is looking at logistics, and it's dealing with the administrative side of your brain working. Yeah. And so those 2 paired together make you a very complex individual. But what Michael's study found is that your right brain does this creative thinking,
pattern finding.
It doesn't even know.
Chaotic.
It's chaotic. It's crazy. It's art. It's music. It's all these things that are happening in
just like
that side of your brain.
Just like you had no idea you were going to think about tennis shoes 40 seconds ago when I said Dr. Richard Sperry, and your brain went off on this Sperry. Yeah. I wonder if he was related to the Sperry family.
Yeah.
The Sperry fortune.
He found out that there's a left and a right side of your brain and a left and a right foot.
Yeah.
So then he started a shoe company. No, that's literally where I went in my brain.
See,
I was so distracted.
In real time, that is what your brain is constantly doing. By the way, even while you sleep.
Yeah.
Your left brain deals in finite details, black and white, logic, okay? And it's the thing that controls a lot of your motor functions. So when you go to explain something, it's trying to make sense of whatever pattern that the right has fed it, but the right has no ability to actually fully fabricate or put in linear fashion that can be communicated. It's a chaotic thing. That's why you think of somebody who's an artist or a musician or maybe a really talented athlete, and you try to ask them, how do you do what you do? They don't know.
Yeah.
Their right brain is just on.
Go listen to any commentary album by an artist, and they're like, yeah, we were just sitting in the studio one day, and Dave was just playing this line.
He leaned up against the jukebox, and I said, hey, man, don't rock the jukebox.
Yeah. It's like, and then boom, you got a song. And obviously there were 100 more things that happened for that song to come true.
They make it sound like it's simple. Well, I just need to go sit.
But they're trying to rationalize.
On a rainy day, right?
Somebody asked them a question, left brain's showing up, trying to answer a right brain question, and it's just not possible.
There's also when you ask a child, I've learned this as a dad, why did you do that? They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. That's a horrible question.
Oh,
I'm so
man.
bad at it.
I'm bad at that
Well,
too.
Yeah, what were you? Why? Give me your logic. And they're like, I didn't have it.
I don't have any logic.
It just seemed like the right thing to do.
Just
Yeah.
felt good.
So there's a lot of analogies here. But what you need to know is that your right brain is processing things that you can't even construct into useful thought that can be transferred to another human being. Maybe much less even your own understanding.
Speaking of kind of the automatic thing we were talking about with our kids, John Barg studied cognitive psychology and the automaticity.
It's a good word.
Yeah, there's another
$13.
That's $13. That's going to cost you. Basically, it showed how much of our behavior is driven by automatic, unconscious processes.
Yes.
So sometimes I think if you ask an adult, why did you do that? They also don't know.
Here's some more proof. Yeah. Did you know that as a person living in American pop culture, you know the better part of hundreds of songs?
Mm-hmm.
I think the stat is actually well into 1,000 songs that you never, ever intended to learn.
Yeah. My dad texted my brother and I about a
Mm-hmm.
band, just super obscure band. Nobody knows them from our childhood.
Mm.
And
Carmen.
he was like, hey, what was close? No, less known than that even. But he was like, hey, what was that band? And we pulled it up, and then he was like, oh yeah, that's it. My brother remembered. Pulled up some of the songs. I knew every single word. Haven't heard it in 20 years.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yes.
Every single word.
Yes. Did you ever intend to learn the State Farm jingle?
No.
Like a good neighbor?
We were doing the Mario.
Prove my point. Mario just a minute ago.
We were just playing it before we hit record.
Yeah.
And watching the guys that can play it on guitar really well.
But I need some confirmation bias, like a good neighbor.
Yeah, State Farm is there.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mario. So there are a gazillion examples of you doing this in a day. Like you just do that. Like you could smell perfume that was like your grandmother's perfume that you haven't seen in 30 years because she's been gone. And you instantly have a flood of emotions that come back to you. And you could have never explained or felt those again if it wasn't for that right brain unconscious automaticity that John Barg studied.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Antonio Damasio talked about the somatic marker hypothesis, which is how emotions influence decision-making, and suggests that much of our reasoning is guided by unconscious emotional signals, our limbic system. This goes way back to childhood before you could even talk or understand math or words or reading. And these things that happen to you, environmental things, good, bad, somewhere in between, sensory-based things create patterns in your brain. And it really, at its core, it's a survival mechanism. It helps us avoid danger.
Yeah.
Helps us know, like, bad smells versus good smells and what are...
Well, and it's even down to, what am I going to waste calories on?
Yes.
It costs, that computer you have inside, in between your ears takes power. And your body's literally thinking, what should I spend those calories on today? And it's trying to cancel out. It's trying to be as energy efficient as it possibly can be. Yeah. And that's the unconscious automatic thing that's happening.
If you want to read more about that, we didn't put it in here today, but that's actually a fascinating study. It actually informs a lot of things we should be doing in advertising, which is don't waste people's time, help them thrive or survive. And if you're not doing that, shut up. Get you a copy of the Maven Marketer, go to the back resources. There's a study that we link to in there, or get the Kindle version and read more about that. So we're making you more smarter. Okay.
Yes.
Last thing. This one is specifically from the Journal of Targeting, Measurement, and Analysis in Marketing. Did you know there's a journal for targeting and measurement analysis?
Of course. Can't tell you how I knew that, but I do.
This one, I believe, was in the early 2000s. Estimating advertising half-life and data interval bias. Now, that is nerd talk, and we're not going to keep you there. But Monash University, Faculty of Business and Economics, these people study what makes businesses grow and all of that sort of stuff, concluded that while advertising has a measurable effect on consumer behavior, this is in a college, okay? This is a collegiate, like peer-reviewed study. While advertising has a measurable effect on consumer behavior, a measurable effect, it operates in a way that is not necessarily linked to explicit memory recall. Instead, advertising works through ad stock, a cumulative decaying effect where past exposures continue to influence purchase decisions long after the ad itself has been forgotten. Think about that. You can't even remember what the dang ad was, what it said. Now, this is where repeating characters becomes such a useful tool. Repeating characters and slogans and jingles and colors and brand elements, right? Brand voice. That helps people remember your campaign. Total side rant. You want to create campaigns, not ads. But this is saying the individual ad, the thing that said the whatever thing you don't remember where you were, what happened, what channel it was on, what media it was even on, right? People will swear they saw you in a magazine you were never in, right?
Yeah.
But you do retain a feeling and a familiarity, much like walking into a room of people you haven't seen for a very long time, or maybe you don't remember who they are, or maybe your church, you don't know them individually, but you get a feel for them. Same sort of thing. It does influence the purchase decision. It influences preference, even though the ad itself is a figment of
it's crazy.
The past.
I like that ad stock language. It's like an impression of your brand. Not the ad itself, but the impression of it. It's how it made you feel.
Yes,
lasts a lot longer than the ad itself. And then I guess by this logic, something I saw when I was 10 years old is still affecting my purchasing decisions today, which is wild to think about. And it could be for good or for not, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And there are probably ads I saw back then, Blockbuster ads that aren't on today, but they affect how I think about, I don't know, I'm making something random up, but affect how I think about movie purchases today.
Oh, sure.
Whether I realize it or not.
Yeah. Or cars, or think about big brands. Like think about
Oldsmobile. I'm thinking of brands that aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
Are they still affecting us today because of the advertising they did back then?
The one I use in the book a lot is Coke and Pepsi. And it has a heck of a lot more to do, not with the ads themselves, but what kind of household you grew up in, right? My grandma was a Coca-Cola household, and therefore I will always be a Coca-Cola guy, even though I don't drink soda.
Yeah, we were a Pepsi Mountain Dew house. So we would choose restaurants.
That's what's wrong with you.
We would choose restaurants based on whether they had Pepsi products or not.
Yep. Now, I've wondered all this time.
That's why when we have conflict, we know the root of all of it. So
Pepsi.
Hey, all of this is the reasons we're trying to confirm our bias. No, I'm just kidding. This is real science on why you shouldn't be asking, how did you hear about us? And some of you literally think about that form on your website where you ask it along the customer's journey, or at the end of your sales process, you say, now, how did you hear about us? And you give them a check boxes, or maybe you just leave it as an open question and they type it in.
Well, how the heck am I going to know what?
Yeah.
Which advertising to keep doing, right? It's the old adage, half my advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half.
Yeah. Yes.
It's adage.
Adage. I like that.
So, hey, question. Where did you first hear Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star?
I was probably
Had to be from somewhere.
I don't know.
Do I give credit to the nursery school at church, or your mom or your grandma or your dad or whatever?
Yeah.
What radio station did you first hear Sweet Home Alabama on?
I have no clue.
Could you possibly know that?
No.
Now, if you ask a lot of people, they'd probably think, oh, well, my dad listened to 102.5 or something, so it's probably that, and they probably whip out something. But nobody knows that, right?
Yeah.
This is my favorite thing to ask people. When you pull to McDonald's in the morning, I actually got to do some of McDonald's media buys at one point, and it was fascinating how they thought about it. But you pull up, you get your sausage McMuffin, and they're like, we just have one question. Where did you hear about us? And it's like, the proper response to that would be, which time?
Yeah.
Which time are you talking about?
Well, when you pull up to McDonald's, you know what they say first? Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Right. Strong case for the yesterday customer. But, but just think about a world where somebody hadn't been to McDonald's, and there's a lot of homeschool kids that never have been there. I'm sure. And they're going, how did you hear about us? And everybody's like, I don't know. That's like that'd be the dumbest question to ask, right?
Yeah.
I happen to know that the media buyers for McDonald's have a formula that between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., they want you to hear their TV ad for, pancakes or sausage, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in the morning or while you're
Coffee.
falling asleep,
Yep.
so that when you wake up and you have that hunger, that's like one of your most recent
Grab a
stimulus.
breakfast burrito on the way.
They also want you to hear the radio ad when you're pulling out of the garage, right? And they want you to see a billboard on the way. And now I'm sure this was 10 or 15 years ago. Now I'm sure they have a Instagram, Facebook component to that. And it's like, stop trying to source your advertising. And what I kind of came to the conclusion of when I was doing this and, honestly wrestling with this myself as a business owner in the early days of advertising for my family's company, like we would ask this question. And I realized that I was trying to use confirmation bias to figure out who to fire. And the truth is, any one of the multiple medias I was using could have worked. But I would, wait 3 months, but I haven't heard anybody say anything about that. So we're going to discount. I don't think it works. We had somebody come in here. Remember this person that came in here for a case study or for a lunch and learn thing?
Yeah.
And she was like, radio doesn't work. I already tried that. And we're like, tell us more.
When did you try it? Yeah.
Well, I ran it for 2 weeks. Nobody came in.
Nobody talked about it.
Right.
Like,
and so, but break this down. You could be the crappiest radio station, in your town. You could be the smallest radio station. There are still people that show up and listen to that every day, or billboard, or the smallest whatever. And just think about, there are at least thousands, if not tens of thousands of people exposed to even the smallest of stations in a medium-sized market. And so you just think, well, have all 10,000 of those people come around to buying from me or their friends and family? And it's like, no. Then why would you stop?
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know if they're the right people. Well, they're human beings, right?
On the younger pop channel, you're probably not going to advertise things that homeowners would need, or like retirement services,
concrete foundation repair service to the 18 to 24-year-olds, because they don't likely have a house.
There's a station in town that everybody used to listen to in high school.
Power 96.5.
Yeah, we all talk about it, and I wouldn't buy on that station, at least as it was back then, for something that you need when you retire or as a homeowner or
now,
whatever.
Would it still work?
Yeah.
It would still work.
Yeah.
In time, it would
Add
work.
stock.
There's a little bit better decision to make there, right? So there's some demographic, like it's kind of a secondary thought. And we're getting off track, but what we're saying is just keep making noise to those people. And everybody's waiting for, well, how do I measure it?
Yep.
We're talking largely about tomorrow marketing. You can measure search engine performance in a very short window.
Yes.
You in a slightly longer window, you can measure really targeted digital, like Facebook ads, right? At least for their direct response lead generation or e-commerce ability, right? You can say, I spent $1,000. How many transactions did I get? That data is pretty reliable.
Yeah.
But when it comes to influencing and intercepting people when they're not thinking or trying to actively purchase, which is what we call the tomorrow customer, which is the way that other studies prove that is the best way to grow a profitable company. Should be
2/3 at least of your marketing budget. So it's the lion's share. This is the one you're asking about.
It's 70-30 basically.
Yeah.
Is if we're trying to become known, liked, and trusted and become the preferred provider in our market or our industry. Here's 7 things that you can do. We call these the 7 clues along the way. We're taking these out of the tomorrow marketing strategy chapter. I think it's the most valuable chapter in the book.
I agree.
Because it brings so much clarity to a very historically unclear thing and something that's been, I think, misrepresented by media salespeople. So when you're trying to grow your brand, steal market share, grow, get a bigger piece of the pie, grow faster than you have been, here's 7 things you want to look at. 1, I will almost always, within 6 to 12 months after starting a good campaign, or even a mediocre campaign, frankly, I will see a correlation of direct traffic and organic traffic increasing at the same time.
Yeah.
What that is an indicator of is people recalling your name instead of going to Google and saying, show me the list of all, roofers in the area or attorneys or whatever. So Google Analytics, GA4, any punk could set this up for you, and you would at least have the basic data we're talking about.
Yeah.
You go to the user acquisition tab, and you just look at Did they come from organic search? Did they come from direct traffic, which means they most likely just
Yeah.
put your URL in?
Look at a really wide window for your date,
Yes.
your timeline.
Yep.
12 months if you want.
You're looking, generally web traffic, if you've done nothing to affect it, or if your brand isn't growing, stays the same or declines because somebody else is stealing it. But I'm oversimplifying this, but I think in a 6 to 12 month window, you could start to see it. As long as you're not like, you can definitely see it year over year, but as long as you're not a really seasonal business, so don't go comparing, December traffic for a,
summer
home improvement business for a summer product or a boat dealership or something like that. But in the same time period, if all other things are the same, and one other small caveat, if Google hasn't made any major changes to the competitive landscape or the algorithm that would have reduced your organic traffic, you will usually see this trend. Like when you see a lift, and I'm talking 5 to 10%, is reasonable. Year over year, we start seeing it in the 30, 40, 50%, and it's like, oh, wow, that brand is growing. Because most of you, growing a business have at least a few years of data. You've had a decent website built for you.
Yeah.
So increase direct website traffic and brand searches via organic.
Yeah.
You can also go to Google Search Console. It's super nerdy. Grab a nerd and just
grab
a
nerd,
grab the Maven
nerd.
marketer and say, show me if this is happening.
Second clue along the way, you'll see decreased lead cost. And what happens there is tomorrow marketing impacts the overall picture of what appears to be today marketing, right? So you'll watch your lead generation, however you're doing that. It could be Google, Facebook, Instagram. It could be through, lead aggregate sources. You could watch it in all these areas, but you'll watch your cost go down because they already know about you.
Yes.
Whether they clicked on the ad and you paid for it. You may have to pay $10 for that click. You may
still have to pay an extra,
But more often than not, those people are converting after the click.
Yes.
To a lead.
We laid this out, this very, very thing, like a real life statistical, no numbers lying case study in last week's episode. We had one roofer that was getting a $313 cost per lead and one getting $72 in very similar next door-to-door markets, very similar companies, same everything, same budgets, and the whole deal. The roofer getting the lower lead costs had just been doing tomorrow marketing longer.
And a big thing here is somebody searched, they searched roofer near me, but you had that impression, you had that stock inside of their mind, and then they chose you, the ad stock, right? They chose you instead of the other 2, 3, 4 on the page.
Yes.
And that's what drives the cost down.
So that's about the known factor, like direct traffic and then the decreased lead cost. That's generally because they know you more and they're just going to you directly instead of going more often through a paid source. It's also about the trust and like factor. When people trust you more, guess what? They'll come to your website and instead of thinking about it, more often they will take action.
Just fill it out. They're not in research mode. They are in I want you mode.
Yes. Most of the non-branded, non-tomorrow marketing clients that we inherit or take on come to us with a 3 to 5% conversion rate on their website. And that would be considered average for most industries. Like 5% of the traffic, 5 out of 100 are actually taking the next step.
A lot of places would say that's really good. Yeah.
Fast forward a few years, anybody who's doing the plan we're talking about, it's 15 to 20. The ones that we've been doing this for a while with, easily in the 30s.
Yeah.
And that's because the entire market knows who they are. They already came there because they believe in them and they think they sound like a good company to work with. That is the biggest incremental increase in efficiency and therefore profit and therefore riches. That's that thing right there we just talked about. That's what's making millionaires with the Maven method.
That's right.
Fun fact, we almost called the Maven marketer the Maven millionaire.
Yeah, I remember that.
Several people trying to tell me that was a good idea, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I went and found confirmation bias. It was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Caleb was like, that's a dumb name. You shouldn't do that. Anyway, but I think it's true.
Yeah.
It's because so many millionaires had come out of that process.
Yeah, that's right. That was number 3, higher conversion rates on your website. Number 4 is competitors chasing you. You will watch, and it'll be annoying to some of you. It'll be maybe borderline make your face red, get you a little angry but they will copy your amazing ads. They will copy your product offering. They will
I've
copy
seen them copy colors.
how you, your brand, your logo will start to look the same. And, outside of copyright laws, assuming they were a percentage away enough to not be completely stealing from you, they will do that because what you are doing is working.
Yes.
And
they're hearing it on the sales pitch. They're seeing their appointments go down. They're seeing themselves lose more deals or conversations to you. And so they're like, oh, they're advertising on that TV. I better
they'll
do
buy
it
the
same.
billboard across the street from your billboard.
Man, I have a really, really solid example of this. I don't want to say the company's names, but literally this annoying, just like, what's the word? Cringy competitor of one of our big law firms.
Clients, yeah.
They tried to rip it. And the thing is,
let
them do it.
The name almost sounds the same.
They ripped off the name. They ripped off. Yeah. Actually, she's had 3 or 4 people in her town.
But what you have to do is take things and make them, if that happens, by the way, that is a signal that your marketing is working. That's the point we're making here. That
mostly good news.
It's mostly good, but you also have to make sure you have things inside of your marketing that nobody could copy. Things that are special to you that make you completely different.
Yeah.
And so, we try to make sure that's baked in.
So competitors chasing you, you're going to hear it. More repeat and referral business. So literally you'll be like, oh, my repeat and referral business is up. And it's like, what's happening is your past customers are in that audience that you are winning over, and your brand is just becoming more of a household thing, like a market awareness thing. And that also prompts past customers. They're not immune to your ads just because they've already done business with you.
They've become not tomorrow customers, but yesterday customers.
Use this confirmation bias thing in reverse. People love to be the person that refers good people.
I got a guy.
Oh, you should go, to so-and-so. They're awesome.
Yeah.
And some people will even refer you not ever having used you. This happens to Randy and Dee all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you should call that Randy and Dee. They're good people. It's like
people.
they've never met them ever.
Mm-hmm.
And they are good people. But you don't know that. They could just had really good ad people, right? So more repeat referral business. If you see that going up, you can know that your marketing's working.
Yeah. Higher and easier sales closing ratios. You will watch that sales call or that appointment or whatever, however you close the deal, you'll watch your close rates go up. Doesn't matter which salesperson you're talking about. It doesn't matter if you're in your ads and you go to the sales appointment, you'll watch that skyrocket. But even without that, you will watch your sales close ratios just climb over time because people trust you before you ever come to their house or before they ever have that call with you.
I had a client in a year and a half. When they started, their lowest closing sales guy was doing about 35%, which was meh. Their highest closing sales guy was doing about 60%, which is meh, or which is good. Sorry, it's better than average. But the blended average was like 45, 50%, right?
Yeah.
Year and a half later, the team average was 58%. The lowest guy came up, the highest guy even got higher, and they're closing 58%.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Do the math in your business. You watch the top line change.
And what's crazy, if you do the campaigns like we taught you how to do last week, and in like most of the episodes we talk about here, if you do that, you go to the front door or they come into your place, your prospects will start repeating your ads. Oh, are you going to do that thing? Are you going to say that thing? Show me about the D guarantee or whatever, or they'll whistle your jingle or whatever. It's working if they're doing it for sure.
That's right.
Okay? So last one, it's what we all want. Drum roll, please. Faster growth rate annually. You may see this in your first year. You'll definitely see it in years like 2.5 through forever. Yeah. You're going to start growing faster than you have. Again, all other things being the same, let's assume you didn't, buy a new location or you didn't do something else, add a new product line or something. But if you're just doing the same things you've always done, and then you start adding this component to your marketing where people know, like, and trust you before the sale, your company will grow faster than it did before. Not like compared to years 1 and 2 when everything is growth, but just your average, like people that have come to us with 10-year-old businesses, They're like, we haven't grown this fast since
Yeah.
our first, second year. So,
Yeah.
and it can be easily in the 30, 40, 50% range for service companies. So lots of getting in the weeds there.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about? Measuring your marketing is a very complex emotional equation. There are no like exact scientific ways to measure it, but there are very few ways even after that give you a full picture. But the worst possible one is introspection.
Mm-hmm.
Humans' introspection, we are way more complex than we even understand. This is why we have psychiatrists. This is why people go to school for 20 years to try to have some sort of fathom about why we do the things we do. But we're just simply not wired to be able to tell you why we made a purchase decision.
Yeah.
We're just not. Not reliably, not consistently.
Yeah.
Second point, long-term payoffs can't be measured in a short-term window.
Yep.
What you're doing today will pay dividends for months and years past today.
Mm-hmm.
If you must measure something, if your accountant is going, but I got to see the data, use the 7 clues along the way to get a better feel, to give it more accurate, real data about what's happening. And ultimately stop asking, how did you hear about us? And just make sure people did. Make sure they did hear about you. Don't look for reasons to stop making noise. Just keep making noise, and they will have heard about you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter where. Sound bounces off the walls. Emotions bounce from human to human. Just keep making noise. We'll be back here every Monday answering your real-life marketing questions, because marketers who cannot teach you why
are just a fancy lie.
Have a great week.